and useful in stimulating parts of that brain. But I think what one needs to also appreciate that the more activation this area of the brain receives, the more involved this activation is as such with the case with the Quran, the better and more efficient it becomes in its functions for learning and memory. I think we also need to understand that the front part is responsible for the sense of touch, discrimination, and recognition, which is active during handwriting. Oh. Overall, if you look at the parietal lobes that have been well activated, translates better to logic, math solving skills, better speech, capacity for understanding. And this explains why Muslims were so good at astronomy as well, because of the other parts of the brain being tapped into and activated. I think what one needs to appreciate is that the amazing thing about reciting the Quran and the brain being activated, the practice with these things without conscious control from the learner trains the area of the brain responsible for inhibition, which is important for social interaction. And children with ADHD have been shown to have this area to be underdeveloped. But with repeated recitation of the Quran, this is tapped into and activated.
MashaAllah.
So I just wanted to share this and the value, the immense value the recitation of the Quran has on activating different parts of the brain.
Brilliant way to start, Dr. Shaida. Really appreciate that. Words of wisdom, and wouldn't have thought it. Where do we take it then from there? We should immediately kick off with introducing the Quran and Sunnah of what Islam has taught us. But Yasmin, we leave the floor to you to give us just a brief introduction on yourself and why you find yourself in this industry.
Oh, Assalamu alaikum, and thank you for having me here. My journey started off in the education sector. I was a teacher first. I realized that I needed to equip myself with much more knowledge with handling the learners in my classroom, and I think I continued my journey into psychology from there. And up to this point where I find it much more fulfilling than just sitting in front of class and trying to get 30 children to pay attention to you, to giving them that individualized attention and addressing needs as and when they come up.
So I believe you are also still involved at the school with your skills that you've developed now, alhamdulillah, and extended to a special needs school as well as your practice in Parkview. Reading a little bit of introduction on yourself, but what would you see is most common at your practice and also at the school? With the schools and practice, it's similar issues. Most of the time, it's attention and processing issues. With hyperactivity as well, a certain extent, but it's more attention because the teacher wants you in the classroom, wants you, all your senses, paying attention and giving back whatever information the teacher requires. And that miscommunication there, or that break in not giving back what you are supposed to be responding to, is where there's a problem. Okay.
So Yasmin, I think it's important for us to understand it's become a buzzword, ADHD. Every second child is diagnosed with ADHD. And I think to unpack this a little bit, to explain to the viewers what is understood by ADHD and what is it that they should be looking out for. Because I think more often than not, children are either misdiagnosed or they are missed and labeled with other disabilities. And so I think it would certainly help if we unpack that a little, step by step, so that we can have a deeper understanding of what it actually is.
Sure, I agree. With ADHD, it's short form for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. And attention deficit in itself means that the child is not always unable to pay attention. It is a neurological issue. It's with the relaying of information to the brain that there's misfiring the information does not get to the correct parts of the brain, and therefore you have a child who is, as we call it, misbehaving or not paying attention, but really the child is unable to focus because the information is not going to the brain that, hey, you've got to focus now, we're in a learning environment, pay attention. So this type of a child in the classroom is the one that you'd frequently find missing out on instructions, not following through with instructions, looking around as to what everyone else is doing and then forgetting what he needs to do. So there's that attention deficit in the child.
But what you said, Yasmin, that this is the child that is often glossed over. This is the kind of child that is often labeled as naughty, as unruly, as disruptive, as even a bad child.
And I think listen.
And your insight that you're sharing with us is obviously there's some kind of neurological reasoning behind this, that this child is not actually stupid, because often we know that there are many geniuses which we can identify who have been diagnosed with ADHD. But I'm going to leave it to you.
No, very true. It's not a child being naughty. It's not a child who wishes to not pay attention and not follow through with instructions. It's a child who really can't do it because of the wiring of the brain. And with that, you have added stress placed on the child from the teacher, from parents, from the whole system in itself. But if you accommodate the child and if you help the child can function normally.
Understanding how beautifully we put the Quran as an example and so brilliantly as an introduction, alhamdulillah, to the show, and ADHD comes up, through that. So we understand that this is a brain that's also an organ, and people don't recognize that. So how can we put that across stronger?
It's a wiring issue. The information is not going through from neuron to neuron up to your brain. In order to address that, you've got to accommodate the child in the classroom, and it's generally medication that helps the child. Depending on the severity, there's not one fix-all solution. And it is not an exact science in saying that a child at the age of 8 years old needs to get so many milligrams. It depends. It's an individualized treatment plan that needs to be worked in consultation with pediatric neurologist to help your child. And diagnosis for what I find very, very common is that as soon as a child is not paying attention, not fulfilling the classroom tasks, people already want to jump on that ADHD bandwagon. It may not be the case. So you need proper diagnosis before you take it further.
So I want to touch on the brain being this organ that is not, wiring correctly or meant to be the way it's supposed to in this sort of instance with ADHD. And often us as a community, as educators, as parents, as members of the family, all see this child, not necessarily in the classroom, but they see this child as being too hyper and too sort of impulsive, just grabbing things and knocking children over, or whatever the case may be. And we label this child. And as a psychologist in your background in education, how does this affect the family, the child, the sort of community of school as well?
Any label is incorrect. The holding of labeling children is incorrect because you already have a presupposition that this child is going to behave like this. But you have varying degrees of ADHD. This is what you've got to understand. It is different from child to child, from individual to individual, and from situation to situation. If a child is being overly stimulated, you are going to get that hyperactivity. You are going to get that impulsiveness. If a child is understimulated, then you're going to get a child who is just flat out and not doing anything but not paying attention as well. However, you would still get that same child when he is engaged in a task that he enjoys. He's going to give it 120% attention. So this labeling of children is incorrect. I don't like that.
And psychologically, it definitely does something to the
because
child.
Then adults are going to behave in a certain manner with this child. You must remember that no one is normal. We all
What
have,
is normal?
Yeah, exactly.
But what you're saying is so important. I think the labeling and how people start responding, because it creates the social milieu of relationships and connecting with this child because of the label that is attached.
Yeah.
The child is going to start responding in a certain way, and everybody else is going to start responding, and it becomes this escalating spiral, which, of course, we know the outcome is just catastrophic for all concerned.
Absolutely.
But you touched on something which is so important, where often people don't know where to go, Hawa.
Yeah.
I think often my child is, I can see, I know, I sit and read Dr. Google and I realize there's something amiss with my child. Okay, so my child is hyperactive. I see restlessness, accident prone,
Yes.
always getting hurt. What do I do? Where do I go? And I think Yasmin has articulated it very eloquently, because it's, yes, a pediatrician, but it's your neurodevelopmental pediatrician who is specially trained.
Yeah.
To work with ADHD, to administer. And something that Yasmin has highlighted, I think, is so critical for
Absolutely.
viewers to understand that no single child will have the same composition of the ADHD syndrome.
That disorder,
Each
absolutely.
child will be different, and it's not it's not a tailor-made. I mean, it's got to be tailor-made
To that child's needs.
medication and interventions.
Absolutely. Brilliantly said by Dr. Shaida Omar. We also have educational psychologist Yasmin Omar in studio with us. Do remember, we are taking your calls, education challenges that your child is facing in the show. Back in a moment.
غيث البشائر في زهور سعادتي واستبشري يا شمس عند شروقك فالنور أشرق في تخرج طفلاتي.
Life's most persistent, urgent question is, what are you doing for others? A man's true wealth is the good he does in this world. The Mustadafin Foundation feeds 15,000 people a day with your donations to reduce the amount of children who go to bed hungry. How can you help? By sponsoring a pot of food at 2,800 rands or sponsor a parcel at 400 rands. The Mustadafin Foundation. If every man helps his neighbor, then who will need help? Want to spoil that someone special? Give them a gift from Gifts for You and let them remember you. We stock the largest range of designer fragrances in South Africa and will beat any price. Free delivery anywhere in South Africa.
Shots All Joy brings you the 500-gram big can. Get an extra 100 grams free with every big can purchased. With the Easio top and same great quality, taste and price, you will always be ahead of the class. It's our 25th anniversary Big Can Bonanza. 5 years winner of the International Quality Award. Shots All Joy, class in a can.
Park Avenue Stationers, your office supply specialists. Home to friendly staff and unbeatable prices. We are situated in Fordsburg Garden Route, Plettenberg Bay and Cape Town and offer a next day delivery service. We are stockist of all office and school stationery, art supplies, printers, cartridges and toners, including a wide range of fine writing pens such as Parker and Cross. We provide a wide range of printing, branding, name badges and engraving. We are also proud to boast our in-house rubber stamp department, where we offer rubber stamps while you wait.
يا غيمات الأفراح هلي وانثري غيث البشائر في زهور سعادتي واستبشري يا شمس عند شروقك فالنور أشرق في تخرج طفلاتي.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome back. This is Health Matters, and we're talking about academic learning challenges, learning difficulties in this part of the show as we start off our new year and our kiddies are at school. And it's from as young as 2-3 years old, they show an interest in education, in learning. And there sometimes could be possible mishaps. And we have Yasmin Umar to guide us, as well as our medical expert, Dr. Shaida Umar. And alhamdulillah, we kicked off with a kick. We started off with a kick, and ADHD is a big one, and the show is not just dedicated to ADHD, but it has come up a lot when it comes to children being diagnosed with a learning difficulty. And as you said earlier, it's possibly the most I think the quickest ailment disorder that is pointed at, and we need to understand it, unpack it, and as you said, proper diagnosis is imperative. And Aunty Shaida reiterated, pediatric neurologists are the way to go. Sometimes they need to be medicated, and it is what do they say? Not a one size fits all. It is a designer sort of package. Alhamdulillah. So looking at the ADHD, I know that, alhamdulillah, ADHD we've not really completely, and we can have an entire show on it. Of course, there's ADD as well, and that just omits the hyperactivity. So just explain that.
Yes, so that's just the attention deficit for the child that's not hyperactive. But once again, this has to be a medical diagnosis, not made by a teacher, not made by a parent. You need to see onset is from childhood and going up into the teen years. Sometimes you get an early diagnosis in childhood, but it's normally around the teen years that it's verified, because there has to be a consistent pattern of events, of characteristic behavior for diagnosis of ADHD. And a child
of
learns ADD or ADHD,
okay.
the one with the hyperactivity or the one without. So in terms of that, it goes right up into adulthood, and individuals just learn how to cope with that, and they adjust their lifestyles.
Yasmin, I just want to interject at this point. I think it's also important that we look at the fact that often parents get frustrated. They've taken their child to the neurodevelopmental pediatrician and now find that the child is not responding. They're expecting miraculous cures. And again, I think what Yasmin said, each child is going to respond differently. So with regard to the medication as well, they're going to have to adjust it, adapt it to the child's needs, physiological needs as well, and in terms of what their brain, how the brain is going to respond to the dosage. So I think that's again something that we need to alert viewers, that to be patient, to trust the process, to actually continue communicating with the medical specialist in order to ensure that the child is in a position to respond or given the opportunity to respond.
Yes, very true. They start off with the dosage, a low dosage, and they start picking it up to seeing where the behavior, the distractibility, the impulsivity has diminished. And then that's where they stop with the dosage. And to go back and not think that that dosage is going to be the same throughout the child's schooling career is important. You've got to keep in contact with your doctor and get that dosage adjusted as need be. The thing is that parents sometimes don't understand that for your body to accept the medication and to work accordingly, your body takes time to adjust to that. So we have quite a few parents, and I find this happening quite frequently, where during the weekends and during the holidays, they do not give the medication. Then come Monday or Sunday evening, they're back on the medication, and what you find is that the child's body has to readjust. Then it takes time to get into the system to get the desired behavior. So some of the parents come back with the statements that my child is not the same. Yes, that is why you put the child on medication, because your child was not responding well in the classroom to the learning environment. So obviously the medication is supposed to adjust that. Then they don't like the state the child is in. Then they don't want to give the medication. Then the child's body has to once again get used to that dosage again. So the cycle goes on and we see recurring issues with that.
But what you're identifying as well is a broader issue here. I think it goes deeper because we're not only working with the child or the medical diagnosis or the disorder, but we also need to work closely with the family, with the caretakers or the primary caregivers in terms of counseling, the psychoeducational counseling that they need, and also understanding and appreciating that children are creatures of habit. They require consistency, the routine, and of course, disrupting this medical routine as well, even their diet, even the behavior over the weekends where there's more indulgence. I think that certainly requires a lot of support, whether the parents not only receive medical support, psychological support, but also belong to some support groups where they learn from each other. And that is certainly very enlightening and empowering. And I think for viewers out there, there are support groups of this nature which they can reach out to.
Absolutely. So looking at solutions and also guiding parents with some of the symptoms, because the sort of earmarks that comes up is from the educator, and of course mom sees it first. She just gets this feeling. Talk to us about the process of having those diagnoses done, and when does early intervention matter?
Definitely. Definitely. Early intervention always. Trust your teacher. Very frequently we get parents who do not want to listen to the teacher and say that the teacher cannot handle my child, and my child is different at home. I get that very, very frequently. But the parents got to understand that in a learning environment, there's different requirements as compared to the home. There's structure, there's routine, and you've got one teacher seeing to a class of 30 individuals. So obviously that one that's not tagging along, that's frequently lagging behind, that's not handing in tasks, not getting the instructions, is obviously going to stand out. And so that is why the teacher will bring that to the notice of the parent. So your next step would be then to take an observation, notice what are the characteristic or symptomatic behaviors of the child, and go forward to an educational psychologist to help you understand it. And there will be further screening done by the educational psychologist, and he or she will refer you to the neurologist for further verifications of the diagnosis, and thereafter medication if needed.
I just want us to talk about practical things, Yasmin, for parents on their fingertips, to say what must they look out for when they suspect that their child is ADHD.
Absolutely.
So from your years of experience and skill in this area, some practical hints that they can sit back and work effectively in helping their child.
Very, very simply. If the child cannot follow a sequence of instructions, for example, go to the kitchen, I want you to get to the fridge on the second shelf, I want you to bring me the container that is there. And then leave it on the table for me. 3 or 4. If the child cannot follow instructions, turn around and says, what did you say? Or gets to the fridge and forget. And this happens frequently, not just once or twice, frequently. That's a clear marker that the child cannot process the information that you are giving to him. Obviously, this will be age specific. You cannot expect a 3-year-old to do this. Excuse me. The older child.
So what are the ages?
So if you are going to give such a complex set of instructions, it will be from about 6 years old. The younger child will be, go to the room, go and pick up your shoe and bring it to me. Simple things like that, age-specific tasks. Just observe compared to other children. Is your child being extremely impulsive in the playground? Observe them. And be a little bit objective in it, because you only say, you know what, but I know what he meant to do. But the other children in the playground don't know. And I think that situation, the context is more important. Did he offend the other children? Was he extremely rough in playing with them? And so on. And that's another thing, impulsivity. constant interruption. Does not understand when you say, wait, mommy's on the phone right now, can you please wait? He or she wants your attention immediately. And regardless of whom you are talking to or where you are, what situation the child finds himself in. So inappropriate behaviors like that, not conforming to social norms. You are in the aisle at the grocery store and he's running up and down the aisles.
So I like what you said. It's about appropriate behaviors, age-appropriate behaviors. So if we, and of course we know a child below the age of 6 years old will not be able to think abstractly. But if we're looking at a 7-year-old, an 8-year-old, the normal response is if they open a jar, take out peanut butter, you would expect them to close it. Yeah. This child will leave the jar there, will leave the spoon there, will leave the plate there, will run, will leave the fridge door open. And I think these are actually key indicators that parents need to look at in terms of the age of the child, and is it appropriate at that stage or phase of development for the child to be behaving in that fashion.
And consult with the teachers. Consult with the teachers. Where are other, if you do not know any better, if you don't have other children or you have not been interacting with, in your extended family with children of that age group, ask. I noticed the following things in my child. Is it age appropriate or not? Ask. Call up your doctor, your GP, and say that, I suspect the following things. Am I on the right track?
Okay.
Ask.
And you know what you're saying is, I remember a child visiting us, and this child sliding on our dining room table, a 7-year-old, the next thing swinging like from the ceiling, taking a string, and I think those are kind of things that should be red flags.
Definitely.
That there is something wrong here. It's not that my child is adventurous and enjoys this thrill of being so adventure seeking. I think one needs to also, like you say, look at the context, look at the age, and is it appropriate?
Look, I think mums, and to a certain extent dads, are so taken by their child is that no one wants to see that in their child. And no one wants to identify that. So what happens is that they tend to make kind of cover up for them and excuses for them because they understand the child. But look at the social context, understand what is appropriate for that particular age group, then take it from there.
Absolutely.
I just want to say something. I find that
we need to take an ad break.
Boys will be boys. That's the kind of response you get.
Absolutely. Yeah. The boys will be boys up to a point. We're talking about academic challenges, learning difficulties in your child. Remember, the lines are open, so call us. We have educational psychologists in studio as well as Dr. Shaida Umar. She's our medical specialist, and we'll be with you for just another half an hour, I think. So please do pick up that phone and call us in studio. We'll be back just after this.
غيمات الأفراح هلي وانثري غيث البشائر في زهور سعادتي واستبشري يا شمس عند شروقك فالنور أشرق في تخرج طفلاتي.
Spice Mecca's newly packaged spices, categorized by spicy orange, exotic red, natural green, and magical purple. Use our blends and seasonings, masalas, herbs, or pure ground and whole spices to create yet another unforgettable taste experience. Choose your color, choose your number. We have your taste. So come on, do it the Spice Mecca way, the cook easy way.
For the past 20 years, Jad Doors has been synonymous with good quality doors because we don't compromise our quality. If you're not stocking the Jad Doors range, call us to discuss real value. We manufacture the widest range, from budget to exclusive, and we distribute to the following countries: Angola, Botswana, Lesotho, Malawi, Mozambique, Namibia, Swaziland, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. Call us on 011 857 2131. Call now.
Imagine the next level in faucet design, coordinated throughout your bathroom. Imagine the redesign of water itself.
Trend, Tap and Tile, or Mondi. Your home, our passion.
Help Heal Syria with the Africa Muslims Agency's mobile clinics. Many of our Syrian brothers and sisters are displaced and in urgent need of medical assistance. The Africa Muslims Agency's mobile clinics provide free medication, professional maternity and pediatric care. Give our Syrian brothers and sisters hope by donating any amount now. Contact AMA on 011 834 8685. Africa Muslims Agency, continuing to empower humanity with dignity, inspire the spirit of giving.
يا غيمات الأفراح هلي وانثري غيث البشائر في زهور سعادتي واستبشري يا شمس عند شروقك فالنور أشرق في تخرج طفلاتي.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. Remember, we're taking your calls live in studio as we chat to educational psychologists about learning difficulties. Dr. Shaida Omar is also in studio with us, and we just have about 2 segments, and we know, but by the time the last segment comes, Adi Shaida, then the lights just flash. The calls are coming in, we can't keep up. So please do call in while we still have her. And remember, you can get any of the shows on Health Matters on our YouTube channel. So please, if anybody missed them, please do inform them to catch up on our YouTube channel. So, Yasmin, ADHD is a big thing, hyperactivity, identifying when boys are not just being boys and they're being a little bit over the limit, and then sort of going through the order of diagnosis and proper diagnosis in the process. And I think often we are advised, just, you in the profession, educational psychologist, to go to your GP and then get a referral, and then whether it be, private or public, of course, that's up to you, but you need to get it going with your child. And I've mentioned the early intervention. What about ADHD, ADD, any other problems within the school sector that could be a delay or an issue like development or something? What other comes up?
Yes, processing disorders, information processing. We have children who are so overwhelmed that they cannot use existing information in order to understand what is happening, to a point where they do not scaffold the information or their learning. Everything is just too overwhelming for them. They cannot make sense of it. They cannot put it down to examples that they've previously learned, and that's called information processing. That's an issue with information processing.
And a lot of children suffer with it, unfortunately, and are misdiagnosed. And that is where the challenge lies, because if they're diagnosed appropriately, the interventions could certainly assist the children in terms of slowly working through it step by step.
True. It can be auditory in that you're hearing. You are hearing certain sounds and not hearing other frequencies. It could be sensory in that certain senses are much more pronounced in you. For example, some have tactile defensiveness in that they cannot stand certain clothing items, textures of food, and so on. And it's very overwhelming for them.
Absolutely, and we need to understand that. We've got a caller online. This is Health Matters. Assalamu alaikum. Good evening. You need to turn down your television set when you do call in. Unfortunately, we lost that caller. Please do note that you have to turn down your television sets. Otherwise, you're not going to hear us. You're going to hear the television and there'll be this echo. So talking about processing, understanding, textual, that I think maybe is sort of recognized on the spectrum, what do they call it now? Autism. Autistic spectrum, and often some of that symptoms do come up. So that's also another
another label.
Yeah.
Another label.
Yeah.
But we've got to understand that as we accept everyone for their individual differences, this is just a learning difference. And it is not diagnosis that should be alarming to an individual. It's just so that you understand how to approach the individual, and especially a child. Watch how you talk and watch which labels you do put down. If a child has sensory issues, you've got to understand that if it's auditory, for a child that's sitting in an environment and every little sound that we can ignore is heightened in his ears. How is he going to focus?
Absolutely. I've just got some comments with a mum that has mentioned that her child has gone through sort of process, was delayed, I think in grade odd, to not start, I think it was 7, and he started a little bit later, and there was a recommendation that his teacher of grade odd mentioned that, you know what, she's going to keep him back because she felt that he wasn't emotionally ready. Right, and just to latch on that, often you find that boys have that sort of development delay, that they're not, ready. But on this child has gone regularly for OT, speech therapy. There was also a possible diagnosis on the autistic spectrum because he was doing little things that would line up his cars in a certain way with colors and very slow. There was also the texture issue as well. Right. But at the end of the day, this mom was saying that the child was normal, was fine. Yes. They got through school. They had the sort of interaction with the teacher, the educators. And you know what? When the educators approached the child in the way that the child was maybe sort of is and. But okay, we are taking calls and people are waiting. So is there a call? Yes. Okay. Before sure.
They have embraced the difference in their child. Okay. And this is very, very important. Embrace and accept that this is the way my child is wired. And let me work around it. If mainstream schooling is inappropriate for my child and my child cannot fit in, find another school. There's lots of schools around. Okay. Why must your child go to that particular school? Adjust your home as well.
It's finding that happy medium.
They are all differently abled and embrace that.
Absolutely.
Very, very important.
Okay, we've got a call. This is Health Matters. Assalamu alaikum. Good evening. Who am I speaking to?
Fatima.
Yes, Fatima, go. Hi, welcome Fatima from Cape Town. Go ahead with your question. We have educational psychologists in studio.
Well, I have got 3 boys with ADHD.
Okay.
They're actually grown men now.
Grown men, mashallah.
I've walked this road for a very long time.
Yes.
And in fact, I've walked it before them. Because I have got ADHD.
Okay.
I told them, I'm medicated. There's lots of trial and error with every child as they go along the way.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you know what? All the effort, all the sacrifice, as parents, it works out and it's worthwhile if you see your son or your daughter graduate younger and move on to better things and great things. That's all I wanted to say.
Shukran so much for your contribution. We really appreciate it. And it's exactly as we said earlier on with the mom, embracing it, and that's what we need to do. Jazakallah once again and keep it up.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
I think
that's beautiful.
So it's so beautiful to hear that from a mother, to say, believe in your child, trust the process, and the efforts will be worthwhile.
So on the site of medication, I also heard a comment of 2 moms chatting, and the one was saying the teacher was dead against this medication for the ADHD child, and she doesn't like it, and there's definitely no place for it, but she doesn't agree. And then the mother said to the teacher, okay, I'm going to send my child to school without the medication and let's see how your day works out. These 2 moms were laughing at not as if it was a joke, but sort of, why be so dead against something when you know nothing possibly about? So let's talk about that sort of scenario.
As we said earlier, each child is different, and their bodies will react to medication differently. So by classifying this medication is not good, it may not have been good for one, it may be good for the next. So a teacher from her experience would have noted the changes in a particular individual and suggested that to this mother. I think you should trust your doctor, and if you're not too happy, go to another doctor as well.
I think Yasmin has touched a very sensitive chord. People must not be afraid to seek out a second professional opinion until one actually feels it resonates with the caregiver or with the family person. but they need to feel confident in the person they're dealing with. And I think something that we also need to understand, medication is not without side effects.
Absolutely.
That is a reality, and therefore the continuous engagement with a medical specialist will certainly be in the best interest of the child.
Absolutely, and there is that sixth sense. So let's talk about solutions, exercise, diet. Where is all of this hyperactivity, the attention, the sort of processing issues, where is it all coming from? As this mother said, she had it. Her children, her 3 boys, 2 boys, had it, and they're grown men now. What is happening to, because it wasn't as common as what it was before. There's lots of things that has changed in today's day and age. So let's talk about where this is all coming from.
Look, previously we just had those naughty children in the classroom with no diagnosis.
Okay.
And ADHD is more recognized now as a neurological condition. And yes, there would be a family history of it.
Okay.
So chances of someone in the family having ADHD is very, very high. And studies have also shown that more males are prone to ADHD than females. This is just a prevalence that they've noted across the age groups. With regards to diet and so on, I think being careful around certain high sugar items, colored items with lots of food coloring and so on, because it actually compounds the issues and the problems. It doesn't result in ADHD, but it just compounds the impulsivity and it aggravates the whole thing, especially artificial flavorants, coloring, and preservatives as well. Yes.
Okay. And Shaida?
No, I mean, I think Yasmin has highlighted the most important things, but parents need to understand that certain foods will stimulate children.
Yeah.
We know that even as adults, if we eat certain foods, we are more, we feel like we're on high alert and we have a false sense of energy, and that's what we're giving to the children. We're providing them with a lot of stimulation which overwhelms them already. And that is what we need to appreciate. And I think, again, it's about education, educating oneself, consulting with professionals in the field. As Yasmin said, speak to the educator, speak to the neurological pediatrician, speak to support groups, because that is how one will learn best. Yes, trial and error, as our caller highlighted as well.
Absolutely, and we're going to look for and highlight some of those solutions after this short break. Jazakallah for our calls, and those that had unfortunately not gotten through, please do attempt to get through. And remember, if you are listening to your television, turn that volume down, and it's going to be havoc here in studio and in your home. This is Health Matters, and we're talking about learning difficulties. It continues just after this.
غيمات الأفراح هلي وانثري غيث البشائر في زهور سعادتي واستبشري يا شمس عند شروقك فالنور أشرق في تخرج طفلاتي.
Pop, squeeze and enjoy. HQ Foods, the Cape's finest quality sauces made with love. For that perfect match between quality and perfection, call us now on 021 797 0414. HQ Foods, from our kitchen to yours.
For over 78 years, Masons have capitalized on good old-fashioned family values and service. Today they have 3 branches in Benoni, Bethlehem and Balfour. Major appliance suppliers have their own individual showroom to display their own product range. Masons offer the best deals on top brands, from electronics to built-in kitchen appliances and furniture, as well as nationwide delivery to your door.
فكانت البئر عميقة, and the well was deep. Why are we saying كانت and not كان? She well is feminine, so it should be كان, but because بئر is feminine.
The purpose of this course and all our other courses that have to do with the Arabic language is we want others to taste the flavor in the Quran Kareem.
يا غيمات الأفراح هلي وانثري غيث البشائر في زهور سعادتي واستبشري يا شمس عند شروقك فالنور أشرق في تخرج طفلاتي.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. Our last few minutes of the show. Jazakallah to that very strong mom, Fatima from Cape Town. She has sort of stepped up and put the bar rather high and helped us sort of understand a little bit about ADHD and how we need to support. This is not an ADHD show, but it's highlighting ADHD, ADD, learning difficulties, development delays, any struggle, academic struggles that your child is having. And remember, talk about it. Talk to parents, to educators. Let's be open and not block the avenues that we have, hey? So we have educational psychologist with us, Auntie Shaida Umar, co-hosting, and also our medical expert on the panel. But we want to look at the way forward for these issues of attention, hyperactivity, processing, development delays, how we, not just as the community should, which we must understand that that child is not necessarily naughty when he is going to just grab that cupcake from the table and throwing that bottle of Coke on the cream carpet. Auntie Shaida's experience. But, you know, we laugh about it now, but at that very moment, you are irate, you are upset, you are perturbed. This child, how can it? And then parents are not sort of reacting in the way that you want them to. So let us understand as a community, as a parent, and then also first as an individual to advocate this help for that child that is suffering from this, you know, any sort of academic or at least learning difficulty and disorder.
We've spoken about support groups. That's very, very handy. You need support, buy-in from your family members as well. Have them understand what is happening to your child from a medical perspective, and tell them how they can help the child. Routine is very important for children with attention deficits, in fact, every child.
Yes.
Routine is important. And before you get into a social environment or into a setting where there's lots of distractions, rather talk to your child. We are going to be going to the mall, and I expect the following behavior from you. If you are going to do this, okay, remember that mom is going to be very, very upset, okay? Talk to your child. Let the child know. But if you are feeling, give the child a chance as well. If you are feeling overwhelmed, if you are going to get tired or hungry or thirsty, tell me. Don't act it out. Tell me rather. Talk to me. Give them a certain signal. Tell them, when you hold my hand like this, I know that you are feeling overwhelmed. Do that. Help your child through these socially awkward situations.
Yasmin, I just want to add to that, if I may, please. Yes. Just in one of the trainings that we had, it was a specialist in the field who said to us that you actually, when you say, I like what you said about talking to your child, she said you actually need to even hold your child's face.
I heard that too once, yes.
Hold, like your face should be facing the child close enough and containing. It's about physical containment and emotional containment. And I think, you know, to like all the things that you spoke to, actually sharing that with the child and saying, did you understand?
I absolutely
and
agree.
Can you repeat what mommy just said to you?
What did I say? Do you understand me? So it's not just like, listen, we're going to the mall. You need to behave. And if you're not feeling well, tell me. Did that child grasp that?
Yes, exactly. Child can understand that. And Dr. Shara mentioned touch. Touch is very important. For a child to be loved, and I say this to parents quite frequently, and they get a shock of their life, 8 to 12 touches in a day.
I did
Are
that
you
as
doing
well.
enough?
Did you wake up? When you wake up, we go to bed. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Did that,
And give them your attention. When you are talking to them, leave that phone. It's so easy to be distracted by what's happening around you. Your child is the most important one. give them that attention. Just giving them that 1 minute of your attention will save you at least about 10 minutes of frustration getting them to behave later on. Show them what you are actually imitating the behavior you want from them.
Yes.
You are showing them that mommy values you, I'm looking at you, I'm facing you, and I'm listening to what you are saying. And that's what children want. They just want love and attention.
And on a lighter note, but I want every viewer out there to actually stroke their face, to touch themselves, the TheraPlay, rub cream, and what does it feel like? And what Yasmin said and what you said, Hawa, we all want and crave for touch, for comfort. So for the child, what does that mean? It's 1,000 blessings, 1,000 opportunities to help that child.
And just ironic, I just received a message today about a hug. What a hug can do to you. Just I think it was a 5-second hug. How much, and same like with the Quran, awakens this, inside your brain. That hug gives off endorphins, happy emotions.
It makes
makes
you
you
saying about the neural pathways, the synaptic nerve fibers connecting the messages it's giving to the brain, and the way the brain is reconstructing itself as a result of that.
And Hawa, I just want to point out, for a child that's anxious, for a child that has been active the entire day, weighted blankets help a lot.
Weighted
blankets.
Blankets,
yes.
okay.
You can get them, you can order them online. Speak to an occupational
Not
therapist.
the very hot ones.
No, I'm sure you get the light ones as well. They're not all packed with down or fleece.
Okay.
They have, some of them have sand in them, or they have added, look, I don't know what substance
to cool
they use
the weight,
in order to cause the weight, but it actually has a very calming effect on the child. Weighted blankets for children who are anxious and restless and overly active. Speak to an occupational therapist and they will explain it to you.
I think it makes sense what Yasmin is saying, because it's already looking at the cortisol levels. It's reducing the cortisol levels, which is the stress hormone. And that weight is sort of kind of containing also.
Okay. Wow. Another solution that we just don't think of, besides us being parents and being conscious parents as well, to be there and listen to our children and not the mommy. We're shouting and get irritated with actually what is it that this child wants. I absolutely agree with the contact as well as the interaction, because I've also have experience with an ADHD child, and I found that you need to speak to that child one-on-one. Look in his eyes, look in his face, touch him so that he knows. And in fact, that weight you explained, I was advised to hold his hand like harder, press a little firm, a nice firm grip, instead of just talking to him and just touching him. So he's also a real contact child. So it is absolutely true, and the guidance that you've given us has been vital, I think, in this sort of stance of understanding not just the difficulties in schools, but also understanding our child's emotions and what he's going through. When the school does not always accommodate the child for his temperament, for what is happening, what is going on, what do we as parents do?
You change the school.
Okay.
You change the school, really. If a school cannot understand that they need to, and we're speaking about inclusivity here, if a school cannot understand the needs of your child, you will change. You would not go to the same store every time you do not get good treatment from them, would you? Or good service from a restaurant. You would change. You won't go back there. So why do you want your child, who has 7 hours, 5 days in the week, to be subjected to such treatment?
Absolutely.
And I think what Yasmin is saying is that continue, do your homework, do your research, visit the schools, visit different schools, take your child with you and see if there's a connection there, is there any kind of resonance there as well?
So the way forward, inshallah, we've understood that, the parents are absolutely the first bearers of this symptom, this news, this anything that happens, and listen to your educators, interact with them, have that relationship where you guys work together at school, because that is basically your child's second home that they are going to.
And when you speak to a psychologist and you tell them that these are my concerns, the psychologist is going to go right back to the teacher and ask the teacher exactly what have you observed. So parents feel that teachers, they tend to undermine them, but they're actually very, very perceptive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're looking at any sort of, and we've spoken about the medications and the process of having your child medicated, pros and cons, and how parents, just a quick guide to understand it from your side.
Listen to your doctor. He knows best. And besides that, remember, it is trial and error in getting the dosage correct, and stick to it, stick to the plan, and know that you are giving the child because you want a change in behavior, you want that attentiveness, you want the child to be less hyperactive.
Absolutely.
So don't take that away from the child. If your doctor has recommended the medication is going to help, going to assist, stick to the plan. Stick to the plan and keep to it, because that's the path you have taken.
Absolutely. And Dr.
Yeah,
Shaida?
I just think she said it so beautifully. Just want to add that parents need to document a journal, a daily journal, because who is the best expert better than the parent to note and make observations daily? What has worked, what has not worked, what lessons have been learned from today, what lessons can I then integrate in tomorrow's experience to move the child forward. And I just want to say, these learning disabilities, disorders are actually opportunities that, and our springboards. We've had geniuses, we've had children turning out to be the best politicians, medical practitioners, scientists.
Presidents.
You know, they are high functioning and they're extremely creative and they will not give up. So those are extremely good qualities in an individual, really. And as I said, embrace your child, embrace and understand.
And what better way to understand and know and leave it at the positive points of your child. If they do have any academic difficulties, there is definitely lots of pros. We appreciate your time, Yasmin, and of course, Auntie Shaida. Jazakallah for staying with us, and you as our viewers for interacting and participating. Remember, you can catch our show on our YouTube channel. Learning difficulties? No? Dr. Shaida Omar said, it's an opportunity for you and your child to connect and better grow in this world of education. From myself, Hawa Solomon, have a good day and wassalamu alaikum.